Good evening. Welcome to the August 26, 2021 City of Roseville Planning Commission meeting. Pursuant to paragraph 42 of Executive Order N-08-21, executed by the Governor of California on June 11, 2021, and as a response to mitigating the spread of coronavirus known as COVID-19, the Planning Commission meeting will allow members of the public to participate and address the Planning Commission during the open session of the meeting. Public comment may be submitted by telephone during the meeting and prior to the close of public comment on an agenda item by calling area code 916-774-5353. If you call, you may be placed on hold until the attendant can answer. The broadcast is delayed by up to 30 seconds when watching at home. When your call is transferred, you will have 3 minutes for public comment on items not on the agenda and 5 minutes in which to speak to a regular agenda item. Your time will be monitored and you will be informed when you have 1 minute left to conclude your comments. If you're listening to the meeting while calling in, please turn down the volume on the meeting in order to avoid interference. When calling, please do not use the speakerphone option as it may create difficulty for the Planning Commission to hear your comments. And with that, I'll now call the meeting to order. Loopy, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Commissioner Brashears.
Here.
Commissioner Caparuso is absent, excused. Commissioner Covington.
Here.
Commissioner Hagen-Jost.
Here.
Commissioner Pryor.
Here.
Vice Chair Martin.
Here.
And Chair Jensen is absent, excused.
Great, thank you. If you could all please join me in standing for a Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Brashears, could you lead us?
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Brashears. Loopy, can we please have staff introductions?
Yes, good evening, Commissioners. Loopy Nelson, Recording Secretary.
Good evening, Commissioners. Joe Speaker, Assistant City Attorney.
Good evening, Chair Martin and Commissioners. Greg Bitter, Planning Manager.
Good evening, Chair Martin and Commissioners. Derek Ogden, Senior Planner.
Good evening, Commissioners. Sean Morales.
On an item not on tonight's agenda, public comment may be given by calling in at area code 916-774-5353. When addressing the Commission, please state your name for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. If there's anybody in-house that we would like to comment, they can come up now. If not, we're going to have a few minutes for call-ins.
Or perhaps 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Chair Martin, there's nobody phoning in tonight for public comments.
Great, thank you. Hearing none, we'll close the public comment period. Next on the agenda is the consent calendar. The consent calendar consists of routine items that may be approved under one motion as recommended in the staff reports. However, each item may be considered separately upon a request by the audience, Planning Commission, or staff. To request that a consent item be considered separately, the public may call us at area code 916-774-5353. Tonight's consent calendar consists of one item. Item 5.1, the minutes from August 12th, 2021 Planning Commission meeting. Is there anyone in the public that would like to pull an item from the consent calendar for discussion? Nobody present, and then we'll leave a second for a call-in, 30 seconds.
Chair Martin, we have no phone calls to remove anything from the consent calendar.
Thank you. Commissioners, is there anyone who would like to pull an item from the consent calendar for discussion?
No.
Nope. Okay, hearing none. May I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as listed?
I'll make a motion.
Seconded.
Okay, Commissioner Covington has made the motion and Commissioner Pryor has seconded the motion. Loopy, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Commissioner Brashears.
Yes.
Commissioner Hagen-Jost.
Yes.
Commissioner Pryor.
Yes.
Commissioner Covington.
Yes.
Vice Chair Martin.
Yes. The motion's approved. Next up on the agenda is requests and presentations. Before we begin, I want to review the meeting procedures for requests and presentations. We will hear the staff presentation. I will then take questions from the commission, and then we'll open the public hearing. And in the public hearing, the applicant will make the presentation, and then we'll open up public comment, and the public will have an opportunity to speak. Then I will close public comment. Then the applicant will be given the opportunity to provide a rebuttal to any public comments or questions from the commission. Then I'll close the public hearing, and the commission may ask questions of staff. And then finally, the commission will consider this item and make a decision based on the information provided in the report from staff and the testimony presented during tonight's hearings. Now, as a reminder, public comment may be given by calling area code 916-774-5353. If you call, you may be placed on hold until staff can answer. When addressing the commission, please state your name for the record and limit your comments to 5 minutes. First item in our agenda is item 6.1, is a request to approve a general plan amendment, specific plan amendment, tentative subdivision map, major grading plan, and development agreement amendment for 1260 Westbrook Boulevard. For the record, file number PL21-0111. Sean, can we have your presentation, please?
Yes, you may. Good evening once again, Commissioners. Again, my name is Sean Morales. I'm an assistant planner, and I'm here tonight to present to you the Solar Phase 6 project. The project site is located, it consists of approximately 55 undeveloped acres in the western portion of the Sierra Vista Specific Plan and is located west of Market Street, north of Vista Grande Boulevard, east of Santucci Boulevard, and south of Earl Rush Drive. The project includes several entitlements that will allow for the development of 294 residential units, including a general plan and specific plan amendment to transfer units among 2 parcels and change the land use designation of 1 parcel, a development agreement to reflect the changes in land use and unit transfers, tentative subdivision maps to create new subdivisions on 3 parcels, and a major grading plan to allow rough grading on 3 other parcels. The general plan and specific plan amendments are requested to transfer units between FD2 and FD5 as shown in the table. Each of the parcels has a zoning designation of small lot residential with development standards, or RSDS, and that will remain the same for both. As a result of the unit transfers, the land use for parcel FD2 will be changed from low-density residential to medium-density residential, though the overall number of units in the project area will remain the same at 294. In addition to the amendments to the general plan and specific plan, the 5th Amendment to the West Park Federico Development Agreement is requested in order to reflect the changes in the overall number of medium-density and low-density residential units in the area covered by this DA. The applicant proposes new subdivisions on parcels FD2, FD5, and FD9 to create a total of 294 lots that are consistent with the RSDS development standards. Adequate access and circulation is provided to each parcel to facilitate development of the small lots, and the lots are oriented to front on public streets. The subdivision layout and street design were reviewed by the city's engineering division and fire department, and they made sure that there was adequate access and street widths for circulation and emergency response. Each subdivision is also consistent with the Paseo design guidelines and the wall and fencing requirements of the Sierra Vista Specific Plan. The project also includes a request to rough grade parcels FD40, FD63, and FD64 to balance approximately 38,000 cubic yards of cut and fill among the 6 project parcels. There are currently no other entitlements on these 3 parcels that would permit grading, so the major grading plan approval is required. With the recommended conditions of approval, the project will meet the requirements of the city's improvement standards and grading ordinance, and will be consistent with the master grading plan and drainage plan for the Sierra Vista Specific Plan. So in conclusion, staff finds that the proposed land use change and unit transfers are consistent with citywide policy, and that the project is consistent with the goals, policies, and standards of the zoning ordinance, community design guidelines, and the Sierra Vista Specific Plan. An addendum was prepared to the Sierra Vista Specific Plan EIR and it was determined that there were no new significant impacts beyond what was already anticipated in the original EIR. Therefore, staff recommends the Planning Commission consider the fifth addendum to the Sierra Vista Specific Plan EIR and recommends that the Commission recommend the City Council approve the General Plan Amendment, Specific Plan Amendment, and Development Agreement Amendment, and that the Commission adopt the required findings of fact and approve the tentative subdivision map and major grading plan subject to the recommended conditions of approval, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Sean. Appreciate it. Just as a notation item, we received a memorandum on yesterday, which was just basically updating some of the numbers that were in some of the tables. Commissioners, are there any questions for Sean at this time?
I don't have any.
All right, hearing none, I'll now open the public hearing. I would like to invite the representative for this item to address the commission.
Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the Commission, Marcus LaDuca, 3200 Douglas Boulevard here in Roseville. On behalf of West Park Communities, I would like to express our appreciation to staff from the various departments for all the work in getting us to this point. The staff report and presentation tonight very thoroughly review the three subdivision maps before you. We're in agreement with all the conditions of approval. We would ask tonight for your recommendation to the City Council and action on the tentative maps as presented to you. Our project property owner and project engineer are also here to answer any questions you might have. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the commission?
No.
I have a general question. I have no issues with the plan. I'm just wondering what the reason is behind it from a developer's point of view.
Well, you've seen a few of these in various plans. In Roseville, all the planning that's done in specific plans, each unit has a cost. It generates the need for parks, road capacity, water pipes, sewer, various pieces of infrastructure. And so it is only as a last resort you would ever want to lose units. So you'll see in each specific plan that the city has approved over the last 30 years provides a transfer of units, what are called minor amendments, if it's less than, I believe, 20% on a parcel to other parcels in the specific plan. When you go over that, you need the specific plan amendment, general plan amendment. In this case, we need also rezone and development agreement amendment for the one parcel. But this also, in certain instances, allows for a greater range of housing in terms of adjusting to the marketplace. So you have FD5 here that allows for a gated subdivision with open space on three sides. It will be most likely higher end housing. You also create a parcel and not lose units and get a parcel FD2, which becomes a medium density residential, which allows for typically smaller lots, smaller price points for sales. So in the Sierra Vista specific plan, there is a real desire to try to provide a better range of housing types, and such a change like this preserves the number of units, so you're not creating any more environmental impacts, but at the same time, you're utilizing all the units that you sold bonds for to pay for infrastructure, and so you're making sure that all the units that were planned and anticipated for the specific plan area are maintained.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll now open public comments. Public comments may be given by calling in area code 916-774-5353. As a reminder, you have 5 minutes to address the commission on this item. Seeing as there's no people in-house, we'll take a few seconds to see if there's any call-ins.
Chair Martin, we have no phone calls for public comment on this item tonight.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so since there's no people, we'll close public comment. And then we appreciate the applicant for making their address and also for adding quite a bit of information. We appreciate that. Commissioners, are there any other additional questions on this item? Okay, I'll now close the public hearing. And then, Commissioners, do we have any additional further comments or questions? If not, then we'd like to see if there's any motions. First, we'll ask if there's any comments. No?
I'll go ahead and make a motion that the Planning Commission tonight consider the fifth addendum to the Sierra Vista Specific Plan Environmental Impact Report. Recommend that the City Council approve the General Plan Amendment, Land Use Map. Recommend the City Council approve the Specific Plan Amendment, Text and Land Use Map. Recommend the City Council approve the Fifth Amendment of the West Park Federico Development Agreement. Adopt the 3 findings of fact and approve the tentative subdivision map subject to 80 conditions of approval. And adopt the 3 findings of fact and approve the major grading plan subject to 27 conditions of approval.
I'll second that.
Great, we have Commissioner Brashears has made the motion, and Commissioner Hagen-Jost has seconded the motion. Lupe, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Commissioner Pryor?
Yes.
Commissioner Brashears?
Yes.
Commissioner Covington?
Yes.
Commissioner Hagen-Jost?
Yes.
And Vice Chair Martin.
Yes. The motion is approved. There's a 10-day appeal period for this item. Next up on our item is item 6.2. It's a request for a conditional use permit and design review permit modification for 106 Bonnie Knoll Road. For the record, it's file number PL 21-0081. Kenny, can we have your presentation, please?
Yes, good evening, Vice Chair Martin and Commissioners. My name is Kenny Shallow, Associate Planner. I'm here tonight to present the Bonnie Knoll Auto Repair and Car Wash Project. The project site is located in the infill planning area at 106 Bonnie Knoll Road and has a zoning and land use designation of Community Commercial, or CC. Surrounding uses include an automotive repair shop to the north, single-family residences to the south and across Bonnie Knoll Road to the east, and a church to the west. The site is currently developed with the 1,900 square foot building previously used as a self-service car wash with 3 pull-through bays. The top image is of the original building, and the bottom image is what the building looks like today. The zoning ordinance requires a conditional use permit to operate a car wash in the CC zone, but since the site existed prior to adoption of this zone, the site didn't have a CUP and it was considered to be legal non-conforming. However, modifications to the site were made recently without approval of a design review permit, which included the addition of roll-up doors, new landscaping, and removal of the car wash vacuums. This was done in anticipation of modifying the use to include auto repair, which also requires a CUP in the CC zone. The auto repair business to the north received approval of a conditional use permit in 1995, and that site and the current project site are under the same ownership, and so the owner is proposing to use the parcels in conjunction with each other. So the request before you tonight is a conditional use permit modification to allow auto repair and a car wash at the project site, as well as a design review permit modification to add an additional auto repair bay. The proposed building addition is approximately 375 square feet and will be constructed on the north side of the building. The southernmost bay will remain to be used as a car wash by employees only, and the 3 remaining bays will be used for auto repair. The proposed hours of operation are Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., and the project is conditioned to require all repair work be conducted indoors. Access is provided by 2 existing driveways off of Bonnie Knoll Road, and the project provides a total of 21 parking spaces, which meets the zoning ordinance parking requirements. The project is conditioned to comply with the city's landscape and lighting requirements, which will be reviewed during the building and improvement plan process. The existing building is approximately 13 feet in height and consists of a concrete block wall, stone veneer, a metal panel roof, and steel roll-up doors. The proposed service bay addition will consist of the same colors and materials. And as mentioned, the roll-up doors on the east and west elevations were recently installed without city approval. The west elevation is internal to the site, but the east elevation, which is the first image above, directly faces Bonnie Knoll Road with residential uses across the street. This design is not consistent with the intent of the community design guidelines, which require that service bays be located internal to a site and not be directly facing the primary street frontage. The intent of this is to reduce any impacts related to noise and aesthetics, particularly when the roll-up doors are open. Staff has included a condition of approval to the DRP mod, which is listed as number 3 in the staff report, that requires the roll-up doors along the east elevation be removed and replaced with the solid wall system with the faux rock wainscot and clear story windows to add architectural treatment and enhance views from the streetscape, which is encouraged by the design guidelines. However, the applicant will be asking the Planning Commission to remove this condition and approve the design as is. Staff has communicated with the applicant since the beginning of receiving the project application that the roll-up doors would need to be removed and filled in, as it is necessary to meet the community design guidelines. While staff acknowledges the owner has been established in the neighborhood for several years and there haven't been any recent complaints, the solid wall system will give staff the assurance that there won't be any noise or aesthetic impacts should the business or the adjacent residential lots change ownership in the future. The elevations will need to be revised to the satisfaction of the Planning Division prior to issuance of building permits. The roll-up door for the car wash bay on the left may remain based on the pull-through nature of that use. The project was exempt from environmental review per CEQA Section 15332, which pertains to infill development projects. However, consistent with general plan noise policies, an environmental noise assessment was prepared, given its close proximity to residential uses and the church, which has an outdoor playground for children. These uses are considered to be noise-sensitive receptors. The study concluded noise from project operations would comply with the noise ordinance sound limits and no mitigation is required. So, as conditioned, the project complies with the goals, policies, and standards of the city's zoning ordinance, general plan, and community design guidelines. At this time, staff recommends the Planning Commission adopt the required findings of fact and approve the CUP modification and DRP modification subject to the recommended conditions of approval. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Kenny. Do the commissioners have any questions
I don't at this time.
Right now.
right now?
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Kenny, for your presentation. I have a question regarding the noise. You said that as conditioned, that the noise would be below limits. Are you meaning as conditioned if those roller doors were removed and replaced with a solid wall, then the noise would be reduced? Or are you saying as is, it doesn't produce enough noise?
So actually the noise study found that even with the roll-up doors being open, that the project would still comply with the noise ordinance limits.
Okay, thank you.
But I think staff's issue is really more of the aesthetics as well as the noise impacts with the roll-up doors. So.
Okay.
Commissioner Pryor, I'd also like to point out that the noise study, we worked with the applicant. They hired the noise consultant. And the background data, and we support this, is that they provided data based on the equipment and tools that they use in their current operation. And so based on the way they use this site, if the roll-up doors remained in place and closed, there would not be a noise impact on the neighborhood. One of the, in addition to aesthetics, one of the noise issues we have is we can't guarantee future ownership. Once a conditional use permit and the design review permit is approved, that runs with the land. The city has no recourse at that point, really. And so future operators, future owners, we're just trying to ensure that we have long-term sustainability for that site. So that, I just wanted to augment that. But based on the operation that the current owner is using, and the tools and his operation, there won't be an impact if the roll-up doors remained.
Noise-wise?
Noise-wise, correct. Noise, yes.
Yep. Okay.
Could I ask a follow-up question to that then, Greg? Mm-hmm. If nothing were to be done to the site, so it remains as is with the roll-up doors, new ownership, what would preclude that ownership from doing something different within that building? I mean, that may produce more noise.
Yeah, we don't, we're not conditioning what kind of equipment, what kind of mechanical equipment is used to do auto repair.
The service equipment.
That's in the service bays. So, you'd have to have, it's possible that you could have code enforcement issues related to noise. Complaint could come in we'd have to go out and evaluate whether or not they're exceeding the noise standards, city noise standards. So it would be an enforcement situation. So we're trying to
But at this point, nothing, I mean,
Yeah.
other than that.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
potentially,
that would
nothing
be our,
happens
that
to
would
the
be our
site.
only recourse.
Okay.
That would be
Because
our,
all right.
that would be the city's only recourse. We're trying to prevent that from ever happening. Again, in addition to the aesthetics and the fact that the design guidelines, we would, even on projects such as large industrial projects on Foothills Boulevard, which is an industrial, thoroughfare, we work pretty hard to try and have roll-up doors not facing the main street. The Amazon complex, we had the roll-up doors face to the side of the building. They don't face the front of the street. The McKesson facility, they don't face, it's set back and there's buildings in front of it. The buildings in front, the roll-up doors face internal. So that's a pretty standard for all kinds of commercial and industrial uses that have these large metal roll-up doors. We try to make sure that they don't face the public street, that they're internal.
Can I ask, the modification to add those doors happened without permit? Is that correct?
Well, no, the applicant, it's my understanding, and I'm sure they'll get up and speak to this, but when they discontinued the use of the car wash, they discontinued the use as a car wash, and as they were working on these plans to expand the auto repair into this building, I'm sure and again, I'll have to let them speak to this, but be my guess that they wanted to secure those internal bays. So they installed the metal doors. But yeah, they did not, typically they would have, that addition would have required a design review permit modification, the same entitlement they're here for tonight, before they installed the roll-up doors. Now, doing that to secure their site, I mean,
So originally
they have an application in now, so we're.
Right. So
we're past that.
originally it was open. There was no
Yeah,
doors or anything.
it was that building was one of the older self-service, car washes where you pulled through,
Okay.
you had the wands on the wall, and you did it yourself. I think there's a image of that.
Yeah, it's on the third slide, I believe,
Yeah.
in the beginning.
The third slide? Yes, there were no. Oh, yeah,
One before.
more
First
back.
slide.
There you
There
go.
it is.
That top image
top,
there.
right on top.
Got it.
The coin. That you put the coins in, and
Are there other openings more acceptable to the city rather than a solid wall, or for industrial situations
Well,
rather
there-
than roll-up shutters? Are there other styles of door, or?
well, it's our understanding that they're not planning on using those doors for. They've said that they were going to keep the doors closed, and so they're not planning on using those to pull cars in and out of the bays.
Oh, okay.
So it would be our preference not to have any our preference is to have a solid wall, of course, but to have no opening on that elevation. We wouldn't, if this was a brand new building, if somebody came in to build a brand new auto service facility on this property, initially, we wouldn't support roll-up doors facing the street.
I noted on the plan, or actually at the building site itself, I drove around it, there's a fence across the rear of the building going from the corner, the rear northwest corner to the very rear of the site. There's a fence there with razor wire on top. Is that being removed as part of this plan?
I think that in addition to the doors, that was added when the car wash ceased operation as well. So after the car wash was closed, then they added the fencing as well as the roll-up doors.
That's to be removed as part of this plan.
No, their plan is to keep the fencing.
How will they access the building from the rear? Will there be?
I believe it has an opening.
The side.
The fence, yeah.
Any other questions from commissioners? Hearing none, I'll now open the public hearing. I'd like to invite the representative for this item to address the commission, please.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Mike Wixon, and I'm representing the owner, Mr. George Andolino. And then with us also tonight is Dave Peaches, our architect. And first thing I wanted to do is just thank staff for bringing us through, getting us to this point, so thank you. So yeah, you've heard what we're proposing and kind of some of the arguments pro-con. But just to give you a perspective, a little bit more perspective, maybe if you can go back to the slide 3 on the photos. That's one. If it, just even the other one, go back.
Yes.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you. So it's been about, I think, a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. The owner was facing some homeless issues in that area. So in order, and there were a number of calls that were being pulled out by the police department for homeless going into this area. As you can see, it was open. There were drug issues related to the homeless calls. It came to the point where the police were no longer able to respond to the calls. And so George kind of did what he could do to really get things under control for his property. So, and that also helped out the neighborhood because the neighbors were also complaining about the homeless in that area. So that's the reason why those changes were made. I just wanted to kind of highlight a few points also. And I think the first thing was that the policy that's in the community design guidelines is a discretionary policy. So it's not a shall. It lets you use your discretion. And that's exactly why we're here, is to talk about it and kind of work through it. So our case is that really the building's an existing building. You're hitting on it as you're talking it through. This is an existing building. I think the staff representation of other buildings, they were all new buildings. And of course, I would think that that would be a normal process to try to get industrial buildings to face those roll-up doors away from the commercial or a residential area or a highly traveled roadway so that it's not as visible. However, in this case, it's a local road and it is an existing building. It's proposed as an auto repair shop. I don't know that there's even a single auto, there might be one, but I don't know of it, an auto repair that doesn't have a roll-up door facing the front. So I'm just not aware of it, and maybe there is. It's pretty common. We feel it's an appropriate way to design it for cars to pull in. You can always close it behind and then pull through at the end and kind of make a flow of traffic for the operation itself. We feel that that's important for the operation. I think the other thing is that I want to highlight, it's not on a corner lot at this point, so this is off of Douglas Boulevard, as you know. It's not on a highly visible commercial street. It's across the street from residential uses. It's not in an existing center where it's going to interrupt flow or have any problems with other operations on the site. This is kind of a standalone, if you will, in at least the traffic flow. The noise study has been done, and the noise study actually showed, with the doors fully open, that there wouldn't be an issue. That, in fact, if you look at the noise study ring, you'll see it's well on the site that the noise is in compliance with any standards that the city has. And so, and also that noise study was looking at, it pulled data from other operations. It wasn't just George's operation. It also compared it to other operations. So that's kind of the background of some of the noise data that was input into the model. There is a neighborhood watch group for the area, and the neighborhood watch group fully supports the design that is before you tonight with the roll-up doors. I mentioned most, if not all, the auto repair uses in Roseville have the roll-up doors facing the front. If the doors were closed and it had to be blocked off, there would be additional ventilation equipment required, mechanical equipment for each one of those bays that is blocked off. And that not only would be an additional expense, but likely a little bit of additional noise. And so there's other ways. I also wanted to point out there are other ways that the design guidelines talk about to treat this type of situation. And typically that's with landscaping or a short wall. And so the applicant has proposed the landscaping in the front, and we feel that that is an appropriate way to handle this particular situation. and to address any concerns that there might be. So with that kind of concludes my presentation. Be happy to try and answer any questions if you had any. And again, the applicant and our architect are also here tonight if you had any questions of them.
Thanks, Mike. Commissioners, are there any questions for the applicant?
So I'm just kind of confused right now in terms of use of the building. I thought I heard that the doors were planned, the roll-up doors would remain closed. But now I'm hearing that, no, the doors.
Well, the applicant has indicated to us that they would keep the doors closed, but that's, I think, part of the issue that staff is having, is that we have no way of ensuring that they are, to be kept closed.
And then the follow-up question I would have is, if they do keep the doors closed, then the ventilation issue is still going to be there.
They have doors on the backside as well that they could keep open.
So, but what I'm saying is that if it was a solid wall, and the applicant just indicated there'd be some issues with regard to ventilation, well, if they keep the doors closed, there's still going to be those issues with regard to ventilation.
Commissioner Hagan-Jost, I believe mechanical design allows, when you're designing it for UVC or CVC, that the door is considered open, so it's a semantics from design standpoint. So,
Okay.
but not to go against your point, but
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm trying to get a picture in my head. Are these doors going to be open during business operations for people to be putting their cars in, or are they going to have to drive around to the back?
I think that's one of our main concerns, is that the doors could be left open, and there's nothing really preventing that.
Could I ask the applicant how operations are going to be managed? What is the plan of operations? Are the doors going to be open or closed? How's the flow of traffic going to work? Are cars going to drive in the front and around the back? Or are they just going to drive in and use the rear doors, and the front doors will never be used except for ventilation, possibly?
Sure. So, Mr. Chair, is
ahead.
it okay to speak? Yeah. So just to be clear, when we originally proposed this, we were going through the issues, and one of the issues was noise. And at that time, there was no noise study. And we had offered to shut the roll-up doors in order to address the noise, and in order to actually avoid a noise study, and thinking we would be in compliance. The noise study was subsequently performed. The noise study showed that there would be no issues with the noise, even if the doors were up. At that point, we thought we had taken that off the table, because the noise study had indicated there was really no need to do that. Obviously, there are roll-up doors that are proposed. To some extent, we're open to, I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense to close roll-up doors and not use them if they're there for the operation. At the same time, there are ways to bring it down so that it's not as visible. If you had issues with that while they're performing operations and doing work, certainly that could be a condition. We would be open to that, but we would prefer not. But anyway, hopefully that lends a little bit of information.
So how is the flow of traffic proposed then? Are they driving in the front and driving out the back?
Yes, they would come into the front, drive through, enter the bay, have the work performed, and drive out the back and back around.
Okay.
Yeah. And you can see that it's a little awkward if you had to drive around the back only and come in and then back it out that way. Okay.
Can I ask, you talked about landscaping that you were proposing, is that right?
Yes, there's a landscape strip along the front of Bonnie Knoll. So that could be conditioned to add additional features or whatnot, if that were a concern.
Yeah, because right now, just looking at Google Maps, it looks like there is a landscape strip, but there's really not much there at the moment.
Yeah.
correct.
So if I might offer that something to the effect a 3-foot-high shrub barrier be added if that was a concern for the commission.
And in the new added section, bay, there's a roll-up door, a new roll-up door proposed for that, is that correct? Or would
Correct,
that be?
yes.
I wasn't sure what that abbreviation
So I'll go ahead and add some comments. Typically on service bays, usually it's a drive-in and you have your workbenches either on the front or on the side, and it's a backup. That's how most facilities, that's more common, more typical, I'll say. A drive-through can happen. It depends upon the type of lift you have and the configurations. So that's easily workable as well, too. But more often than not, most facilities do have a drive-in service and then back out to move around. But you're mentioning that it's difficult to come around the backside for that operation. It's not impossible, but it is more challenging than to do a drive-through.
Correct.
So I'm assuming you either have in-ground lifts or the two-post lifts is what your lift types or styles are going to be for this. Two-post lift?
Two lifts.
Two-post lift?
Two posts. Yeah.
Okay. So, and that can accommodate a drive-through pretty easily. You mentioned security as an issue, which is why the doors were installed, which makes sense. But then if it goes to a solid wall, you have concerns about ventilations. So options with, solid walls is you can put in a metal stud wall, do some clear story openings, not even windows, just pure openings, and maybe put a mesh or something which allows pass-through of ventilation, or do it even low with a tight mesh so that people can't get into it. Because one of the problems with a roll-up door is that it can be damaged pretty easily, more easily than a solid wall with an architectural finish. The proposal of what planning mentioned gives you more security over the current roll-up door that you have right now. So there's, gives and takes of each item. The landscape buffer on the street would provide some additional protection. Most service facilities in the wintertime or summertime, typically they'll have doors on either side and they'll open them up so you get flow of air, which makes sense. If you have doors front and back, you can open them up and it allows ventilation. As far as noise, you have 2 service bays existing, a third proposed, or 3 existing, and 2 with the third. Well, anyway, and then a car wash adjacent to it. Your car wash is way more noisy than any type of service facility unless you're doing a welding operation, which is not what this category is. Yeah. So noise isn't a problem. It boils down to meeting the design guidelines and operation procedures that staff has talked with you about and commissioners are discussing here. So
sure.
Do you have any more comments or additional?
I guess I'd like to talk, just ask Greg or staff. I mean, when this came to us, when I read this, it appeared to me that it was important to have a solid wall.
Yeah, I just want to point out, I just talked to Kenny and Derek because tonight is the first time I've heard that this use was proposing to use those was going to have openings in the front and the cars were going to pull through. It had been our assumption that we were at the point where we were talking about whether the roll-up doors would remain in place down and not open for use so that cars wouldn't be pulling in and those bays wouldn't be open. So you have to remember there are two entitlements before you tonight. A conditional use permit, which is necessary to allow automotive use in this building. Right now, automotive repair is not allowed in the structure. That's what they're asking a conditional use permit for. So originally, when they approached us for this item and asked, hey, we want to expand our business into this back area, we had a little bit of initial concern because you're now moving automotive repair deeper into a residential neighborhood, further off the main drag of Douglas on a residential road. We had an infill meeting with all the city staff to talk about all the different details of the proposal. And at that time, we indicated, this is prior to the application, we indicated that we didn't want those openings. We didn't want roll-up doors or any openings facing Bonnie Knoll. So the applicant and the owner have known that we were in favor of closing up those doors. Obviously, they're using the one bay for a car wash because that's a service they currently provide to their customers, and they want to continue to provide it, and that's perfectly reasonable for us. We want them to be able to maintain their business. But they're asking to expand this use into the neighborhood. They're not just asking for a design review permit. So I want to make sure that that's clear that it was our point that, okay, we can support you moving this use that's normally not, that needs a conditional use permit to be this close to residential. We can support that as long as we have some assurances, some aesthetic assurances along the street, and we know that there's not going to be an impact. So it's been our understanding up until 15 minutes ago that all of the vehicles would be entering the service bays from the rear of the building and then backing out and then exiting from there, and that the roll-up doors would be held down. You know, we believe that following the community design guidelines requires filling in those openings. That is the spirit. That's and Mike's absolutely right. It's a shall, or it's not a shall. It's a should. It encourages that. Mm-hmm. We think it's especially important because this is a residential street. This leads into a residential neighborhood. So it's even more important than having roll-up doors facing Foothills Boulevard. You know, the concern with that. You know, we're struggling a little bit with understanding the operation, because I don't know if the applicant had come to us originally and said, we're going to have those bay doors open, we're going to be doing auto repair right there. I don't know that we would be supporting the conditional use permit. I can't tell you right now because I haven't had time to think about it, whether we would be supporting we would be bringing a recommendation to support the conditional use permit to the commission. We may be not supporting that with understanding these new facts. So I just think it's important that we're caught a little bit off guard tonight for you to know that.
When I read the report, I understood it as being a drive-in back out coming from the backside. That's how I interpreted the report as written.
And that's been our understanding.
I agree with you on that. And like I mentioned before earlier, typical service bays are you drive in, service, back out, and move it to the next car. It's not a roll-through item. That's more atypical than typical. So,
Commissioner Morton, could I ask a question?
yes.
In light of this new information that has come up, would it be possible to work more with the client on his design, maybe a continuance of some kind, or?
Well,
Or
I think
what would you
again, we can, you know, I don't know. I think our position is that our position would remain that if we're going to
Can I
support
interrupt
the conditional,
real quick?
sure.
So right now, the way it's written is that item 3 requires those roll-up doors to be removed and filled in. That's what the staff is supporting, and that's what we're looking at. We would have to make an adjustment to approve it otherwise.
Correct.
Which is what the applicant is requesting.
And Commissioner Pryor, your question, whether we could go, I think if we went back and worked with them, we would ask them for a design that showed solid walls and whatever system needed to be, you know, if there was a vent or something building code required to provide the right ventilation, absolutely, we're gonna support that. We can come up with a design to do that. But to be honest with you, short of short of having those openings closed at all times,
That wasn't me.
That's coming from a fire behind us.
Here, if I might just add,
Sure. A second. I didn't push the buttons. Yeah, let's take a little recess, a short recess. Sorry, let's hold on this one. In here, the buttons are way over here. I didn't touch the buttons. All right, we're back in session. We had a fun few minutes there. Okay, we were in discussion currently.
I have a question.
You have another question? Okay.
Yeah. I'm trying to understand. So they shut down the car wash and they put the roll-up doors. So what was happening in that building between putting the roll-up doors to now?
It's my understanding that nothing's been happening in that building since the car wash has been. I mean,
They have been using the one bay of the car wash, I believe.
Yeah.
The one that's going to stay as
one
a
that's
car
going to stay a
wash.
car wash. Yeah.
After a car was serviced at the front of the facility where the existing auto repair is, they would take it through as a convenience for their customers to use the car wash. They would use the car wash.
And so the noise study that was done with current operations, meaning there was no repairs happening within those?
Correct. The noise measurements took that, but then the noise model input noise projections that modeled an auto service repair
Got it.
being in those bays.
Got it.
So
Okay.
both are true.
Correctly, the real concern with noise is what could potentially be in there in the future. Is that, am I understanding?
That's one concern. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
If I might address the commission.
Sure, yeah, please.
So we, in talking with George, we're perfectly okay having the roll-up doors down. So hopefully we could put that to issue. I didn't mean to open anything by that. We're okay having the roll-up doors in the front down at all times during the operation, and that would be perfectly fine. So we could enter from the back. That would be perfectly fine. And then again, that those roll-up doors were installed for security purposes because we were having homeless problems, or George was experiencing them day in, day out. So something needed to be done to secure the site. And that's the primary reason that they're there now. It was kind of an inexpensive way to address that issue and help out the neighborhood and eliminate the calls from the police. So.
Okay, thank you. Any other?
Mr. Martin, could I ask the applicant another question? So if those doors are to be permanently closed and never opened again, you're not against changing them to a wall, or you are against changing them to a wall?
Yeah, we would. I mean, that would be additional expense. Permanently closed, I would imagine that there might be a crack at the bottom to allow for ventilation. That's a very technical, you're getting into some really technical aspects of that operation per se.
I would imagine
our
a vent or
concern
something
would be
at the bottom.
not having, we wouldn't try to avoid trying to have to install the ventilation equipment that's extra. So if there were some issues, we might be back talking to staff to figure out a way if there was a way, or we might be back as well. I couldn't answer that.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions from the commissioners?
I'm just trying to understand the operations of the two different properties. So the automotive repair in front and this former car wash is owned by the same owner. Did you purchase them at the same time? Okay. So you had your auto service first?
You should come up to this front.
If you could just please, thank you.
I'm the owner of the facility. So I came in Roseville in 1991. The station we're at now used to be an all closed down, round down location. This is closed many years before, and we came in and helped, and the city helped us out because it was closed out for 13 years. So we bought the facility we are at now. It was an all closed gas station with 3 bays and boarded out and all that. So we came in, cleaned it up, fixed it, put the 3 bays in there, roll up doors to the front of Douglas Boulevard was okay, has been okay for this whole time. So we add on 2 more bays, 2 more on the Douglas front, the first part of the building. And those 2 bays are drive-through bays. So you have door in front, door in the rear. They've been there for this whole time. A few years later, we used to operate 76 stations that just got there down on Douglas and Bonnie, but Douglas and Harding. We operate that business also. We renovate that location too in 1997. They just got there down this morning. So, and with that money, resources, we bought the car wash. And there was some people at that time, they rented. They were there for many, many years. So we give them the option to buy it. And they couldn't afford it, so we bought it. Mm-hmm. And I operated for a long time as a car wash. The original, the one through bay, which we have the doors on the front and the rear, we're going to still dealing with, because the doors are going to still have a roll-up door in front of Bonnie Knoll, however we're going to do this. And so we bought the car wash. In the last 3 years, we had a lot of problems. For the last 2 years, we had a lot of problems with homeless, vandalism, break-in in the car wash. Besides, I live right next door from that. The property to that is where I live. I bought the property right next to the car wash, so I'm the neighbor that I'll be concerned as well if it is a problem with the building. So, yes, I talked to Greg a few times before, because I always wanted to say the car wash business is noisy, it's loud, it's music, it's 24 hours. That's how it was, how we operated. We update the roof a while ago, so it's electrical. We did a permit, so we asked for, every time we tried to do, we did it with the city, and they help us and work together with us. So I went in there about 2 years ago and said, well, we might turn it into, what if I do this? What if I do the base? We sit down with him and other people help us out. So what if I do this? Oh, we'll require you to have some landscape and some stuff. We move it out. Yes, it's possible. Before we did anything to remove the car wash, the self-serve part of the car wash, the noises, the boom boom, the boxes, whatever noises we got all 24 hours a day, we went and talked to them and said, yes, it's possible. I don't want to do something without, if it's not going to be, we leave it. It's being permitted already. That's the story. But in the last 2 years, there's a lot of problems happening there. So there was a sign there. I was very frustrated because, as a matter of fact, we just got another broke-in into that gate. People came in. Police don't even take a report. They're busy. I say, hey, I live next door. So that's the whole issue. When we have the original permit from the Douglas Boulevard side, one of the conditions were that we don't have a lot of cars. I think we have it's going to be 27 years I've been there. And I never had a complaint. In the history, there has not been a complaint of an ugly, bad, dirty operation throughout this whole time, because I know what good and a bad operation. I'm very proud of my operation. And so we put shrubs, we put landscape. We've done a lot of landscape, more than the city required or requested. We do more. We surpassed that. So long story short is, I decided to put that fence that you asked about it on the side with barbed wire fence, ugly. But in there, we keep in as a storage at night all the cars that we used to leave on Douglas Boulevard. For 21 years, I have cars left in the front of the store. No, not a problem. I never had a vehicle broke in. We left 10 cars and 12 cars in front of the shop on Douglas, between the shop and on the street. And I never, ever had a broke into a vehicle or a vandalism of any kind. In the car wash, yes, because there's coins, there's money. There was a money machine that changes coins. The vacuums change coins, so they were breaking them probably every other week. Nobody want to deal with it. The police don't call. I'm sorry. So is the people with motorhomes parking inside the bays, so people parking and leaving the trash, and it's just going on for a while. Very frustrated about it. So I decided to put the fence, and I decided to put the roll-up doors. Within that, there is a cost, and a pretty good-sized cost, I think, to do this. Losing the business, losing the car wash money, closing all the stuff. So when I talk to them, say, hey, you put this landscaping in the front, get rid of the coins, get rid of the vacuums. We're getting rid of all this noises that's going on, 24-hour lighting. I put the fence up, and I put the roll-up doors. The reason we roll-up doors, because it's a cost. It's a lot less expensive to put a roll-up door there is to build a wall with windows on that side. I already have a roll-up door on the car wash entrance. I already have 3 more matching doors. I figured, okay, I'm going to put the same doors. If I build another bay, I propose it with the door. Our operation works this way. We come to the back side of the building. The front part gets approached to when the cars gets done and finish washing. They bring it to the front and it runs. This car wash, the dryer was in the front on Bonnie Knoll, and it has been and it always was. The blower, the dryer, the loudest thing was on Bonnie Knoll, not on the school side of the site, but on the street side. So helping in the neighborhood and all this stuff, we turned this whole car wash equipment around. We put the entrance to the front and the blow dryer to the back side. Doesn't make a lot of noise. We figured out with the noise study that it's actually not noisy. So we did that for that purpose. The idea of the operation right now, I think it was a little confusion when they asked is, all our vehicles that come through, we got 2 driveways. The way we want to approach it, because we have the parking in the backside with this fence area, is where I keep the cars now at night. So in front of Douglas, there's no vehicles ever. We put them all on the back, and that's what we call the security area now.
So what you're saying, telling the board, is basically you put in the roll-up doors for security reasons, along with fence and the barbed wire on top. So, yes. Okay.
Yeah. And so that's how I did it and why I put the doors. The reason that I but I tried to save from taking the doors out. I don't want to see cars coming in and out. I can, because between parkings being in the front, the way the operation is, I'd rather come in the back, number one. I think everybody, if I ever sell, you guys say, okay, what if George leaves? I've been around for that long. I'm going to hope to be about another 20 years, hopefully. But if there is any access to it, it's always to the back.
Okay.
In front, somebody asked about on a normal bay, it's like I think you were saying, there'll be equipment, there'll be stuff in there, but the one argument I have not having the front doors, because the fact they're there already and I put them on and I spend the money doing it, they don't look that bad. I'm still going to have another door. If I close that and put a window in there, I guess aesthetic is the part that you guys are concerned about it. We're going to keep it clean. We're going to keep it painted. We always have. We always do. We have doors everywhere around this. There's only one neighbor that actually sees this. We're not bedded into the neighborhood. We're only one house right next to Popeyes. We're sharing that with another commercial area. They're
right.
Open 24 hours.
We appreciate your comments.
But anyway, so that's my concern, why I hope I explained to you or explain why is it that I want to do it that way.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why I do it.
Okay.
All right?
And just to add,
Sure.
when I went by and visited your space this afternoon, nice and clean. It was a clean space, freshly painted, the car wash area. The landscape in the front, even though it was rock, it's nice frontage area, and you do keep a really clean site on the side.
I was telling him when we started this, the bushes in front, it was a little requirement in front of Douglas. They were only required to be 3 feet. We're about 4.5 feet to 5 now. All the shrubs area. I came by 20-gallon rubs. I buy 1-gallon rubs, and they'll grow to be.
Right.
That's why they put them in at the time.
Yes.
That's why I did that. But you'll see them. They're there. And the trees we already had on that.
All right. Thank you, George.
That was the idea.
Yes. Thank
Okay.
you. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Hope you understand what I'm trying to do here.
Yep.
Thanks.
Does that help out? Okay. Any other questions or comments? No? Okay, so then what we'll do is we'll open it up to the public hearing. Excuse me.
Public comment.
Public comment, thank you. I can read it now. Public comment may be given by calling area code 916-774-5353. As a reminder, you'll have 5 minutes to address the commission on this item. And are there any individuals in here that want to make a comment? Please come on up to the podium and state your name, please. You'll have 5 minutes to address the commission.
Yes. My name is Neil Claiborne. I live on Bonino Road at 208 near the car wash. I pass it when I come home and when I go to work. They have always been good neighbors, and I feel like they'll be continuing to be good neighbors, and we live there and enjoy their services at a reasonable rate, and we appreciate their business. I think the city has the lesser of two evils here. They could tell him no, and he'd have to leave and go to another location, but I don't think it's necessary. I think he's ready to work with you and make it nice. And we as a neighbor like the situation, and we'd like to see it continue. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? No? Then we'll go ahead and take a few 30 seconds to see if there's any call-ins.
Chair, since you opened the public comment period, it's been over a minute and a half, and we have no phone calls, so I think that's safe to say there's no call-in public comments.
Thank you.
On this item.
Okay, then we'll close public comment. And obviously the one public comment was appreciative, so I don't know if you want to address to his comment, and obviously not. So now what we'll do is we'll close the public hearing, and then what we'll do is we'll have any comments, further discussions from the commissioners, if there's any additional discussions or comments from the commissioners?
No, I'll ask for that.
No?
Goes that way.
Do you have something?
Go ahead. I've got to form my
Okay.
thought here.
So I understand that the measures the owner took to provide safety issues, they're a stopgap measure, and they provided safety on the site. It doesn't mean that it's the correct or final or finish elements, which is kind of what the staff has written in the report. Is they're hoping that we can approach the design guidelines and design criteria, and I believe that there possibly are some cost-effective measures to meet that. Obviously, it is a double cost to the owner to do some of these things, but my dad always says it costs money to do business sometimes, which I hate doing that myself. But that's kind of the comment I have on this. Chair Brashears, did you want to add any additional comments?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, then, since there's no other...
I have a comment.
Okay.
Sorry.
Commissioner Pryor?
I think that Mr. Yandolino should be commended on providing a good service for, indeed, his neighbors and for the city of Roseville as a whole, and commended for keeping his operation clean and tidy and well landscaped. However, I do also think there is a cost to doing business, and putting in roller doors without a permit and then asking us to permit through a design review is not the way it should be done. I do believe there should be a wall there, not just for this operation, but businesses can be sold, they can move on, and these doors would be permitted in permanently, and they could be opened by a further business owner in the future. I've no doubt that the business can operate successfully just by using the rear doors only, driving in and backing out, as the owner said he would like to do, and keep the roller doors closed permanently. But instead of keeping them closed permanently, there could be a wall, which is what we could approve right now, which is in the conditions. So that would be my preference, would be to approve the conditions that have been laid out by the Planning Commission, that have been discussed with the applicant and staff. So that's my comment. Also, I would have to draw attention to the fence that's there with razor wire on top. It's not very inviting. It's visible from Douglas Boulevard if you look in. It's not something that prepares you for a nice residential area behind the business on Douglas Boulevard. It kind of creates a foreboding sense of, is this a dangerous area that has razor wire? So I would ask that that be removed. That's my comment.
Thank you, Commissioner Pryor. So with those additional comments, do I hear any kind of a motion on the issue? Keeping in mind that, as it is in the staff report, it meets some of the items that Commissioner Pryor was talking about.
I'll move with regard to file PL 210081. I'll move to adopt the 2 findings of fact and approve the conditional use permit modification subject to the 6 conditions of approval, and adopt the 2 findings of fact and approve the design review permit modification subject to the 51 conditions of approval.
Do I have a second? No second, so the motion dies. Do I have another motion?
What do we do here?
I would like to make a motion, but I would like to clarify first if that's possible.
Yes, please.
Is the razor wire fence removed in the conditions?
No, it's not currently.
Then I would make a motion to adopt the 2 findings of fact and approve the conditional use permit subject to 6 conditions of approval, including a 7th condition of approval, which is to remove the razor wire from the top of the fence.
Does that sound agreeable, Derek? Something?
Yeah, I'm struggling with that a little bit. I think if we were going to add a condition like that, we wouldn't add it to the conditional use permit. I think we would add that to the design review.
The design
permit.
review? Okay.
But I think, in addition, that's not really shown on the project plans, the
Yes.
razor wire.
Yeah.
So I think we would be looking for them to remove that anyway, as it's not allowed under the accessory structure part of our ordinance.
Okay.
For fences and whatnot, so.
It's not on the submitted site plan, correct? Yeah.
Right.
And
So I
can I-
don't think they need to add a condition to the project for that.
Maybe a clarification?
Is it the existing gate and fence that's shown on the plan on Exhibit A? There's the brown,
It is, yes.
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
so that means it stays the way it is then?
Well, this is
Yes.
their proposal.
It's proposed as an existing cyclone fence with slats, and so it doesn't talk about any type of topping on the fence.
This is a preliminary design, it's not the end design, because the striping isn't correct.
Just an exhibit.
I think
Where is it?
it's there. There's a note on the side of the plans. Scroll up. Existing cyclone fence with slats. Nothing about razor wire.
Yeah, Derek just pointed out that the Exhibit A has a note that shows on the legend, or that's not a note, excuse me, that depicts an existing cyclone fence with slats that doesn't reference any razor wire
Correct.
on it. So, I mean, Derek's correct. It doesn't meet our accessory structures. I don't know that it could hurt to add a condition indicating that razor wire along that fence
I don't know
be
if,
installed.
maybe not a condition, but just a clarification that the fence doesn't need or should not have or will not
Do we have a
future have?
No, we could add one though. I think we could modify 2. So we could modify condition 2 of the design review permit modification. The project is approved as shown in exhibits A through B and as conditioned or modified below. 2A could read the project fencing, the razor wire on top of the project fencing shall be removed prior to the issuance of building permits.
And the privacy slats to remain.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's shown on
that's
the
already on the
plans
plan.
as well, yeah.
So do you want to make a
Yes.
motion, Commissioner Pryor?
So that would be a modification. So that would be a modification to condition 2 on the design review permit.
Yes.
Second part.
So I'll make a motion to adopt the 2 findings of fact and approve the conditional use permit modification subject to 6 conditions of approval, and adopt the 2 findings of fact and approve the design review permit modification subject to 51 conditions of approval, with condition 2 modified to remove the razor wire and include the privacy slats.
Okay.
Is there a
that's-
second?
Sorry,
Sounds
that's
good.
for file PL21-0081.
I'll second that.
Okay. Commissioner Pryor has made the motion, and Commissioner Hagenjost has seconded the motion. Lupe, can we get a roll call, please?
Yes. Commissioner Covington?
Yes.
Commissioner Hagenjost?
Yes.
Commissioner Pryor?
Yes.
Commissioner Brashears?
No.
Vice Chair Martin?
Yes. The motion is approved. There's a 10-day appeal period for this item. Okay. Thank you. Next item up on the agenda is the board member commissioner staff report. Greg, do we have any comments?
Yeah, I have a few things a few bits of information for the commission tonight. The first thing I'll mention to you all is that we do have planning commissions scheduled for September 9th and 23rd and October 14th at this point. I'm not sure about October 28th yet, but with the volume of work we have right now, I wouldn't be surprised if we have one. I also want to point out, I haven't talked to Lupe about this yet, but we're going to need to poll the commission during the month of November. Your first meeting lands on Veterans Day, which is a national holiday and city holiday, of course. And then your second meeting falls on Thanksgiving. So we're going to keep that meeting for Thanksgiving night.
Wait, what?
I'll bring the turkey. But what we want to do is poll everybody to see if we could have a quorum available for November 18th, in case we need to have items in November. Because as you know, we only typically have one meeting in December. Because usually your second meeting in December runs into Christmas Eve, which is similar to Thanksgiving. So we'll try and poll you to see if we can get a quorum for November 18th, just in case we need to hold a special meeting for that night in November. I want to let you know that last Wednesday, the City Council took action on a number of items that have come before the Commission. One of the simpler ones that they took care of was they abandoned or vacated several easements on the Green Acres property. If you recall, when you approved the Green Acres property, that subdivision map, they were relocating different easements for utilities, and that necessitated the need to abandon some of the existing easements. So that's all done. That was a condition of approval on the project, so they have all their entitlements. They're in with building and civil improvement plans, and hopefully we'll see that project start construction sooner than later. The second item that the council took action on was the Creekview specific plan. If you recall, I think a month or so ago, a little over a month ago, we had some specific plan amendments, development agreement amendments, where they shifted some of their units around, and their affordable housing allocation also was moved around. They adopted adopted a resolution entering into in allowing the city manager to accept a grant allocation from the Sacramento Area Council of Governments for regional early action planning. It's going to help us with our corridor planning that I've mentioned to you before, and some of our other housing element implementation measures. So it's a $300,000 grant that we're eligible to receive. So we have some funding. So as I've mentioned, you're going to be seeing a lot of housing element implementation in the next 3 years. which leads me to the biggest thing that the council did last Wednesday, was they adopted the housing element. So the housing element is adopted. It's been forwarded on to the State of California Housing and Community Development Department, who has 60 days to certify that document. So we're waiting now for 60 days to see how we do. We've already started work on implementation immediately afterwards. I think I told I'm going to be saying that a lot to you. And one of those things, we did it in preparation of the housing element, but we brought this before you last March, the objective design standards, which provides for a ministerial non-discretionary permit for qualified affordable housing projects. If you recall, we have a checklist of objective design standards that if a project meets all of those standards, they're eligible to receive a ministerial permit by staff without any public noticing or any public hearings. Now, after we adopted that, we have been working on how do we implement this new policy that we put in place and process. And how do we make sure that we have information available to the public? Because it's not that somebody applies for one of these affordable housing projects and we want to keep it secret by any means. So I think I sent you an email earlier this week with the link to the website, the web page we created that has information about the objective design standards, what they mean, a link to the objective design standard checklist. And then also at the bottom, we are going to be maintaining a list of all projects that are meeting the qualifications and going through that process. So the members of the public are able to access that. Somebody that lives in a neighborhood. One of the other ways we're getting the word out is we're putting together a little information fact sheet that links back to the web page, and we send that to Arcona, the Roseville Coalition of Neighborhood Associations, and they post it on their web page. And we actually tag the neighborhood where the project is. So if somebody's going on the Arcona web page, they go to their neighborhood, they'll see notices of all the projects in their area, and these objective design standard projects will be on there. Right now, we have one that is very close to approval, and one that has just been submitted in the last week or so that we think is going to qualify for the objective design standards. So we've barely got this new policy adopted, and it looks like we have 200% affordable housing projects that are going to go through this process and have their planning approvals done. So I just wanted to make sure that you all are aware of that that's one of the things we're doing, because I know you'll get questions about projects as they come up, and how come it didn't come to the Planning Commission or to the Design Committee? And these projects will not be going for any public hearings, but they are available for folks to get information about. So with that, I think that's it for tonight. I think that's probably enough.
All right. Any questions for staff? I just had one. I was hoping September 9th there was either internal or external pressure because that's first night of football. Cowboys are playing that night, but it hasn't happened yet. I'm still hoping, fingers crossed for...
So there's not a real game on that night, right?
Your hope is realized. We will be having items on that agenda.
Not really missing much if it's a Cowboys game.
It'll be quick.
Fine.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
I just have one thing. And I didn't know exactly when it would be appropriate to raise this, but I'm wondering if we could just take a moment of silence in honor of the troops and the people who have lost their lives over in Afghanistan today.
Sure. Let's do that. All right. Thank you. Yes.
I do have a question, Greg, about the objective design standards. Yes. If we are approached by a member of the public who wants to talk about it, do we just send them to you?
You can direct them to myself, or you can direct them. Yeah, if they've already done the research, and you can direct them to me.
Okay.
I'd be happy to talk to anybody about them. Sure.
Personal cell. Instagram.
Forward all my phone calls to you.
And with that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make motion to adjourn.
Second.
Commissioner Brashears has made the motion, and Commissioner Pryor has seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.